Hello, I'm Henry Keane and we are UATV English. We're online to give you the Ukrainian perspective of reality of war. Watch in the episode Ukrainian counteroffensive in Sumy region update. Online World War III, Russian Medvedev threatens Donald Trump, Trump threatens Russia back. Believe it or not, Russia is getting ready to attack West. Please comment and subscribe to our channel while you're watching it. By doing so, you help us to fight off Russian criminal aggression. Welcome to the News Pulse. The activity of Russian occupying forces in Ukraine's Sumy region has significantly decreased in recent days. Why is that, I wonder?
Only in certain areas, specifically within the Yunakivka and Hotin communities, does the enemy continue attempts to use small assault groups to infiltrate. However, overall, enemy activity has declined recently. This is clearly the result of the work of Ukrainian defenders from all components of the defense forces, including the armed forces and the State Border Guard Service. Along our lines of defense, in that zone alone, dozens of enemy soldiers have been killed or wounded. Andriy Demchenko, spokesperson for the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, in a commentary on the air of the National Telethon.
And also Russians have reduced motorized vehicles and quad bikes, using it as an assault mean, which they had previously did for rapid incursions into Ukrainian land. The spokesperson added that Russian troops are not using armored vehicles in this operational zone anymore, likely due to a shortage, or maybe that is a deliberate decision to preserve equipment for future operations. Well, anyhow, as you can see, this is having clear effects, heavy manpower losses all along this frontline axis for Russians. Meanwhile, in the Pokrovsk direction on June 23rd, 165 high-intensity combat engagements took place along the old front line between Ukrainian defense forces and obviously Russian troops. Ukrainian forces continue to deliver precise and high-valued, I would say, strikes against Russia's advanced military assets. Recently, Russian S-300V4 surface-to-air missile launcher was destroyed by Ukrainian RAM. This high-value target is a critical component of Russia's long-range air defense system, and its elimination significantly weakens the enemy's ability to counter aerial threats. Meanwhile, in the Kursk region, Ukrainian military unit UA REG team successfully targeted and destroyed a zoo park radar system during its deployment. This Russian radar is specifically designed to detect Ukrainian artillery positions, correct enemy fire. The zoo park radar system comes at a steep cost, over $24 million per one unit, making its destruction both a tactical and also economic blow to the Russian military. The United Kingdom and Ukraine will work together even more close on industrial military production, so Keir Starmer said today after welcoming Volodymyr Zelenskyy to the Downing Street. The Ukrainian president arrived at Downing Street for talks ahead of the NATO summit in the Netherlands, having had lunch with His Majesty King Charles. Sir Starmer and Ukraine's president met with troops from Operation Interflex, which sees the UK and other allies training Ukrainian soldiers. There, the Prime Minister announced plans for a new agreement with Ukraine.
And I'm really proud that this afternoon we're able to announce an industrial military co-production agreement, the first of its kind so far as Ukraine and the UK are concerned, which will be a massive step forward now in the contribution that we can continue to make, and is really a symbol of not only our joint work in this conflict, but the 100-year agreement that we have put in place.
Another Ukrainian-made innovation has proudly joined the ranks of Ukraine's military arsenal, the Dodger ground robotic system developed by Ukrainian weapons engineers and designed literally by a frontline combat experience. This ground-based robot is described as multifunctional.
This multifunctional ground robot was designed by Ukrainian weapon manufacturers, drawing on the frontline experience of our warriors. Dodger can be used for a wide range of logistical tasks, including evacuating wounded soldiers from the battlefield, as well as for operational support, such as laying mines. Despite its compact size and low profile, the Dodger can carry a payload of up to a quarter of a ton. Furthermore, this ground robot has armor protection against bullets and shrapnel, from a publication of the Ukrainian Ministry Defense website.
While Ukraine presents technologies in the United Kingdom and signs deals to produce joint equipment, on the other side of the world, in the Middle East, the tensions and strikes do not seem to calm down, really, despite one side claims of ceasefire. Russia has condemned the US airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites, calling it, pardon my French, an irresponsible decision and a blatant violation of international law and UN principles. Pardon my smile also. I mean, with killing civilians and children in Ukraine every night, saying that means taking hypocrisy to a new high. Look who's talking now. Moscow's foreign ministry said that attacking the territory of a sovereign nation under any pretext violates the UN Charter and Security Council resolutions which explicitly reject such actions. Russia also feels somewhat alarmed over the damage to the global nuclear non-proliferation regime and the credibility of the Atomic Energy Agency monitoring the whole system. So I wonder who was that who attacked the territory of another sovereign nation, occupied and bombed international nuclear objects, and completely broken in every way imaginable the nuclear non-proliferation regime by placing nuclear missiles in Belarus. It was Russia, and now the Kremlin is outraged. A criminal against the crime, as simple as that.
The irresponsible decision to subject the territory of a sovereign state to missile and bomb strikes, regardless of the arguments used to justify it, grossly violates the international law, the UN Charter, and UN Security Council resolutions, which have previously unequivocally classified such actions as unacceptable, from the statement of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on their website.
But then let's talk a little bit about what actually preceded this diplomatic hypocrisy. The United States targets Iran's nuclear facilities, where the latter was trying to create nuclear weapons and threaten the US and its allies, including Israel. Iran launched an operation against US military bases and fired as much as 10 missiles at US troops in Qatar and Iraq. Sounds quite terrifying, as war always does. Air defenses in Doha intercepted 9 of the 10 missiles. One just fell in an open area, according to the country's Ministry of Defense. Earlier, Qatar closed its airspace after Iran promised to respond to US strikes. Meanwhile, the White House said that the base in Qatar had been evacuated preemptively and was empty. At the time of the strike, the US also removed all military equipment from that base a week ago. And a Russian deputy head of the National Security and Defense Council, Putin's seat warmer, Dmitry Medvedev, openly threatens Donald Trump in his post on the web. For now, on the web.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
What did the Americans achieve with the nighttime strike on 3 targets in Iran? Critical nuclear cycle infrastructure appears to have suffered no damage or only minor damage, the enrichment of nuclear materials. And now we can say outright, future nuclear weapons production will continue. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their nuclear warheads. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy head of the Russian National Security and Defense Council, on Telegram.
I'm at loss of words. A number of countries, right, with nuclear bombs available. Well, that is exactly the problem, you see, Comrade Medvedev. And now Iran is out of that list. That is what achieved. And guess what? Donald Trump responded to these threats publicly on his Truth Social.
Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word, nuclear, and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran? Did he really say that, or it is just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know immediately. The N-word should not be treated so casually. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on Truth Social.
Well, sure, Donald Trump would definitely know everything about the proper choice of word. But let's talk about something else, about the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, shall we? Or better said, proliferation of it, as it was Russia who deployed tactical nuclear weapons on the territory of Belarus. On March 25th, 2023, Russian dictator Putin announced his plans to do that, and already on May 25th of the same year, the defense ministers of Russia and Belarus signed the relevant documents. Although Lukashenko has claimed that Belarus possesses nuclear weapons, according to intelligence reports as of May 2025, there is no evidence that it does. So to try to sum it all up by releasing hypocritical statements and accusing others of what Russia does itself, Russia tries to shift the focus and responsibility and blame, by the way, to others for destroying the world order and stability that actually has reigned over the world, over the globalized world for the last 3 decades. And remember this, Russian war against Ukraine is not like any other conflict in the world. It's not like the Middle East wars. It's not a regional rebellion of a vassal state against its master. No, it is a conventional and criminal war of aggression of one sovereign state against the other, Russia against Ukraine. And Ukraine is not the aggressor here. And as a grim reminder of what I said is actually right, Russia conducted a missile strike on the Ukrainian city of Dnipro and the region. The central train station and several passenger routes were targeted with real-time evidence of that. 14 schools and kindergartens were damaged. Also, the city hospitals completely destroyed. There is significant damage also in the private sector, and according to preliminary data from the mayor of Dnipro, there was 1 fatality at least. But later, the death toll has risen to 7, and at least 70 were injured. Prior to that, the Air Force warned of the threat of the enemy ballistic weapons and of 2 high-speed targets heading at Dnipro.
After another round of enemy shelling in Dnipro, 14 schools and kindergartens were damaged. The city hospital and polyclinic were also damaged. There is significant destruction in the private sector. Preliminary reports indicate 1 fatality. It has also been confirmed that train number 52 Odessa-Zaporizhia was hit. Boris Filatov, mayor of Dnipro, on Telegram.
So when Russians whine about strikes on their nuclear friends in Iran, someone in the world must stop to indiscriminate Russian terror with missiles and Shahed drones. And to add to it, Russia is dramatically increasing the production of Shahed drones right now, and it will launch them. It will launch them against Russia's enemies, which is everyone really who opposes Russian imperial ambition and expansion into Europe. Our correspondents have prepared a report on Russia's preparation for even larger war.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says a new report from the head of Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, Kyrylo Budanov, contains significant information about the steps the aggressor country, Russia, is preparing to take, as well as developments within its military-industrial complex. Zelenskyy assured that Kyiv will share these findings with international partners.
We are seeing further intellectual decline in Russia's leadership, and we have evidence that they are preparing new military operations in Europe. We are also observing significant damage being inflicted on the Russian economy by sanctions, confirming that our strategy of increasing pressure on Russia to end the war is the right one. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has also repeatedly warned that Russia is rapidly expanding its military potential and may attempt an attack on a NATO member state within the next 5 years. According to Rutte, Russia now produces in just 3 months as many munitions as the entire NATO alliance produces in a year. For this reason, he emphasized that NATO countries must urgently increase defense production, modernize their arsenals, and continue comprehensive support for Ukraine. He made this statement ahead of the NATO summit in The Hague.
Of course, the most significant and direct threat facing this alliance remains the Russian Federation. Moscow continues to wage war against Ukraine with the support of North Korea, Iran and China, as well as Belarus. We all want peace for the Ukrainian people and an end to the terrible war against them. Yet as work is ongoing in pursuit of a just and lasting peace, we must continue to make sure Ukraine has what it needs to defend today and deter in the future. Our support for Ukraine is unwavering and will persist.
According to Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, Russia is preparing to test NATO's Article 5 on collective defense and may attempt to push NATO back to its pre-90s borders. The Germany's Federal Intelligence Service believes Russia sees itself in systemic conflict with the West and is preparing for a large-scale war with NATO. The German outlet Bild reports that by the end of the decade, Russia is likely to complete preparations for launching full-scale conventional warfare. By 2026, the Kremlin plans to grow the Russian armed forces to 1.5 million troops and increase personnel, weaponry, and military equipment along NATO's borders by 30 to 50%.
Kremlin is attempting to increase military spending at a breathtaking pace. By 2025, it is expected to reach around 120 billion euros, equivalent to more than 6% of gross domestic product. Russia has thus almost quadrupled its military budget compared to 2021, from the Bild publication.
When asked about Western intelligence reports at the St. Petersburg Forum, Russian President Vladimir Putin dismissed the idea of possible Russian aggression toward NATO or Europe as, quote, the most outrageous lie. These words echo the Kremlin's denials in early 2022, just before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Moscow continues its hybrid warfare across Europe. Espionage, cyber attacks, election interference, and disinformation, all hallmarks of Russian intelligence services. In the Baltics, authorities are also reporting growing disruptions in power lines, communication cables, and gas pipelines.
Russia is already a direct threat to the European Union. Russia is violating our airspace, conducting provocative military maneuvers near EU borders, targeting our trains and planes, attacking our pipelines, undersea fiber optic cables, and electricity grids, is assaulting our industry, including companies supporting Ukraine, and is recruiting criminals. Ukraine is Europe's first line of defense. We know that Russia responds to strength and nothing else.
Moreover, this September, Moscow and Minsk are set to hold joint military exercises called Zapad 2025, West 2025 in Belarus. For NATO, this represents another serious challenge, as the drills are expected to take place near the borders of Poland and Lithuania. Reported by Irina Yusupova, UATV News.
Well, that was it for today. My name is Henry Keane and we are Newspulse at UNTV English. We thank you so very much for your time and attention. We appreciate that a lot as you help us to make Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Please join the fight for freedom and sovereignty by subscribing to our channel. Hope to see you with us tomorrow. Goodbye.